Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dreadlocks. I'm Gunther the Great, and today we're going to continue the Dread Check series. So I'm super stoked on this. If you guys don't know, I started this series a while back and I kind of took a break on it, but we're going to jump back up with checking out your guys' dreadlocks. So in order to be featured on this, make sure to go check out Dreadlocks on Instagram. So when you tag Dreadlocks on Instagram, you can actually be featured on not only the page itself, but you can be featured on the website, which is right here. And you guys can see that all these images up here are giving like people shout outs, and this is on the website, so people all over the world will see it. And you'll also be featured on the channel itself when we do these dread checks. So don't forget to tag Dreadlocks on Instagram. We're definitely growing. We're at 10.3 followers, which is nuts. I started this page not even that long ago, like last year sometime, and to see it grow is really awesome. And it's really cool to see where everything's going. It's definitely a community, and one thing I love doing is when you guys tag me on the stories, I get to share your images. So when you do a story and it has your hair in it or whatever it is, it doesn't even have to have your hair in it, tag Dreadlocks and you'll definitely be featured on the story. I try to feature every single person on the story. Let's get into the dread check, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and go into my tagged images, and like you've seen in the last dread check, we checked out his dreads. And his hair is really cool. I'm expecting his hair to turn out really good as long as he sticks with it. One thing that I mentioned is if he does crochet hooking, it's going to turn out really great. But obviously over time they're going to turn out awesome because of length, growth, weight, and more hair. It just turns out a whole lot better when it comes to that. So let's see what else we can run into. I usually like to look for distinct dreadlocks when it comes to dread checks. Because I just think, distinct hair that stands out to me is really like what I like talking about. So let's see what we can get into. This is really interesting. It's like two in the front. Let's see. These are cool starter locks. This is like sponge rub dreads. So if you look at this image, this is what a sponge does to your hair. We'll go ahead and make that the product of the day since we're looking at these right here. This is exactly what a sponge will do. And if you keep sponging your hair, if you guys don't know what a dreadlock sponge is, it's a sponge with multiple holes on it, which what happens is when you do a sponge rub, which I definitely recommend on more of a tighter curl pattern from, I would say, if you know hair types. If you don't, I'll leave a hair type video down below to figure out what kind of hair type you are. As long as you know what your hair type is, you'll know that from, I would say, 2C all the way down to 4C, or I would probably even just say 3A all the way down to 4C is what you would want to use a sponge on. It's harder on the looser curl patterns, but initially what happens is when you're doing the rubbing, your hair goes into the holes that are in the sponge, and then that allows it to coil up because you're going in a clockwise or counterclockwise motion, which we'll explain in a sponging video, which I'll link down below on how to actually do that. If you go in the same direction, the entire head, all the hair will go into these holes and create coils as if you were doing twisting with gel. And right now it doesn't look like it's going all the way down to the root, but if you were to keep going in with the sponge, you can eventually go all the way down to the root as long as you start applying pressure. But you do want to start out light and then start applying pressure as you go down. But that is explained in the video that's linked down below. These look like starter locks. They are straight hair locks, and one thing that I always tell everybody, don't despise the I would say the beginning stage, or a lot of people call it the ugly stage. I don't like to call it that because ugly is what you call it, and it all depends on your view of what you think of yourself and how you look at your hair. But you can see that he's been forming these for a while, but one thing I will tell you is I like how they're more skinny, because you don't really see a lot of people with skinny straight hair dreadlocks. And we'll get a better view of them right here. Yeah, they're very skinny, and one thing that you will notice over time, it's a good thing that they are skinny now, because eventually when these grow out, when there's more hair, they're going to become more thick, and that's a good thing because he's going to have a lot of dreads on his head and they're all going to be thick, and that just takes time. So that's one thing to know. If you have straight hair, take your time, allow them to lock up. Do as many dreadlocks on your head as you would like, but don't do too many to where your hair is gonna not be thick enough to, hold over time, because it can happen. Your hair can thin out at the roots, and then your dreadlock will fall out due to weight and not enough strength at the roots to bear that weight. But like we see in all these images, We can see that they're maturing over time. You can see that there's hardly any frizz up here, and that's definitely a good thing. It looks like he does have a high top set of dreads, which is really cool. I'm telling you, with length and time, these are gonna look really good. These look really cool. Let's take a look. I like these. These look almost like Freeform. She said he's had these for 1 year and 10 months. And they do look more Freeform like, and that's really cool. I like the Freeform look. They're really clean, and I like that. Looks like he wears his hair up with a hair tie, unless his hair stands up like that. His dreadlocks are very skinny. They're very mature, and that's one thing that you'll know about Freeform dreads. If you Freeform dreadlocks, once they become dreadlocks, they're mature, because what happens is if you freely form, you're literally allowing your hair to freely form until it gets to the locking point, is what you would call it, I guess. And once your hair locks up, is formed up completely. So anybody with Freeform dreadlocks typically has super mature dreadlocks. That's what I'm trying to say out of this. I'm not sure if any of that made sense, but if you Freeform your hair, it's typically completely locked up and mature because you allowed it to freely form. I really feel like I didn't even make any sense when I was saying that, but hopefully it made sense to y'all. But he has some really cool locks. I like Freeform locks. If you guys have been watching me for any amount of time, I like the way Freeforms look. His hair looks semi-freeform. Looks like he probably started out with a method. I could be wrong, but really cool looking locks. Can't really see much in any of these images besides how skinny they are, how many he has, kind of the semi-freeform look. He has a high top fade, has a lot of new growth. He allows it to grow out, which is why I mentioned the semi-freeform look. These are some straight hair locks, and one thing you'll notice, they're very wispy at the ends, and that's because there's no maintenance being done on these. I can almost guarantee you, because what could possibly happen, which this looks completely fine. I think it's really cool because you'll see that her hair is super mature up here, really mature, and they are immature at the roots and at the tips. And like I said, with anybody with straight hair dreadlocks, that's typically what you'll see with people that, you know, allow their hair to kind of form on its own or take its own course. But overall, everyone has their own style, and I think it looks really cool. So one thing that you'll notice, and this is actually a style that I've seen people wear, is allowing some of their hair to lock up and then allowing their bangs to be free. This is actually a good route to go with doing your hair free in the front, because with straighter hair, I would say it's tougher to have a consistency with the locking. What I mean by that is when it comes to locking straighter hair is not going to be as pulled together because the hair isn't as tight of a curl pattern. Now what I'm getting to is, with straight hair, there will be hair that will tug on the root of your scalp. Now with that can result in traction alopecia, which eventually causes hair loss because of inflammation at the actual hair follicle. And what will happen is that the bangs are at the front of your hairline. With all that tugging and pulling, that can recede a hairline. And that's with anybody with dreadlocks. But I'll say this, that straighter hair has more tugging at certain points because of the inconsistency of locking. Because you have to manually go in there and lock it up, which it will lock up eventually over time, but there's going to be an inconsistency compared to a more coarse or thick, I want to say thick, but a more coarse, I don't even say coarse, but more of a tight curl pattern is what I'm trying to get at. I feel like my words are all over the place today. But yeah, like you could see in this image right here, that with her hair up, you can hardly even tell that she has dreadlocks. And I think that's a really cool look, because you could see them up here obviously in the bun, but down here it looks like she allows her hair to be free. I think that's a good thing with straight hair dreadlocks, is allow your roots to be free. And I think that's with any dreadlocks. In my opinion, I think having free roots is nice, more comfortable. It's not stress on the scalp because it allows your hair to not tug at the roots. And that's one answer that I questioned, or that's one question that I answered in one of the previous videos that I just did. Is someone asked, how do I prevent tugging at the roots and anything like that? And one of the answers that I gave was allow your hair to grow out or comb out your roots, because then that evens out everything at the roots and eliminates tugging at the best, or like the best way to eliminate tugging is to do that, to comb out your roots, and if they're not already combed out, obviously. But I've actually done that in a video of combing out my roots and then doing a retwist, or I actually did a, what do you call it, interlock on that video. And I made sure I combed out the roots first because that eliminates tugging. I'm telling you, it really works. So if you have any tugging at the roots, allow your roots to grow out and then comb them out and then let them chill for a little bit. And then eventually go back in and do whatever method you usually choose. But what do you guys think about our dreadlocks? I think they're really cool. I think they're very distinct. And I would say they're very freeform-like, especially for a straight hair curl pattern. It is very freeform-like, and I think that's a really bold move, and I think it's really cool. I've seen multiple people with freeform straight hair dreadlocks, and I will tell you the truth, I wouldn't say they're 100% freeform, but they do have a freeform look with them, because 100% freeform straight hair locks look a little different, and they take quite a bit of time. Pretty sure she started these out with some sort of method. It looks like she did back combing and then eventually just let them go. I think that's just what it looks like. I could be wrong, but it's really what looks like happened. Really cool though. What do you guys think? Comment down below. See, I see the dreadlocks right here. Yeah, so she started out with a method. You can see that these are methodized locks right here. And then we see them now that they are more freeform like. And this is what straight hair dreadlocks tend to look like when they mature, and they'll get bumpy and stuff like that. And that's a good thing because they'll be very mature. One thing you'll notice about immature straight hair dreadlocks is that they're more, I would say, they'd be more frizzy. Obviously, they're more of a straight, like just straight out, and they're very stiff. But these are very thick and strong, and that's what you want them to look like. And that's why it seems like people with straight hair, when they get dreadlocks, it doesn't seem like they have much shrinkage. But over time, their hair will eventually even out and shrink out, just like anybody else's hair who gets dreadlocks. It's just a little different. But you guys, that's today's video. I feel like I was all over today with my words. I couldn't really pronounce anything for some reason, but thanks for chilling with me and looking at that. But like I mentioned today, the product of the day is a crochet hook, I believe. Is it? No, it's not. It's a sponge, dread sponge. You guys can pick that up at DREADLOCKS.com. DREADLOCKS.com is a place where you can find all dreadlock products, everything you need, like literally all the necessities, a dreadlock starter pack if you want to call it that. You can literally find that at DREADLOCKS.com. If you were to order all those products on there, you're straight, you're solid. But if you need anything, I think the #1 product is a crochet hook. But since the product of the day is a dread sponge, I'll link a tutorial of that down below. It's also found on the DREADLOCKS website because we have tutorials and reviews on there as well. But that is today's video, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I love making these dread checks because I like seeing your guys' dreadlocks. That's why I want you to tag DREADLOCKS so you can be featured on the page, channel, or the website, and even the story. Like I said, I like posting all these things, and it's really cool to see the diversity of people. So guys, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.